Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, with the people it's reaching. My objective, my intention when I started was really to guide people on their journey, their spiritual journey, as well as to simplify spirituality. And I feel the podcast is doing it. I get proof every week, but the messages we receive, and I get so many messages that it feels like whatever topic we pick, it's the exact topic that somebody needed. And I feel so very, very blessed with that. It is interesting picking topics because I think I say to you many times, we don't pick the topics in advance. We do sometimes, but mostly we like to feel the energy, especially with me and Stacey. We try and feel the energy, the current energy, and whatever also we're going through, and pick a topic accordingly because it just feels like the right thing to do. And I love it when I get the message that whatever topic we picked was perfect at the right time. And that just it's great to receive that confirmation that whatever we're doing is the right thing. We're very much guided. I very much know that every episode is guided by our guides and is channeled. So thank you. If you're a regular listener, thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm glad you could join us. Let us know any feedback you have. I'm sure you listen to this episode for a reason. I am an Akashic record reader. I'm a Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to guide people to shed their layers of who they are, to truly become their authentic selves, to understand your purpose on this planet, understand the gifts that you have, and understand you're the gift, you're the light. And it is a journey. What we do is a journey. It's an emotional journey. It's because you're shedding layers and layers, and there's a mentorship program that me and Stacey channeled. You can work with both of us. You can work with us individually, whatever feels right, whatever soul contract you feel you have. But it is life-changing. We hold people's space. We guide them. We do have a framework that we channel through the records, but every session is channeled. So if you feel like you're going through a shift, if you feel like you can get some support, if you feel like our voice resonates individually or together, then book a free discovery call. You can book a free discovery call jointly, individually on our websites. I'll include the links in the show notes. If something resonates at a soul level, then reach out. This podcast wouldn't be where it is today without my beautiful co-host who supported me through the podcast for a good few years, I think from episode 17. So introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and now published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, now I've got to do that intro, right? So over to you. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, friends. It's so good to be back. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I still have a special going right now, $44 for a 30-minute reading. If you're interested in connecting with me, we'll include the link in the show notes. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And I'm really looking forward to another episode and diving deep into a topic that feels very near and dear to my heart. So, Nims, I know we're about to get into it, but I'm bracing myself.
When you said you're excited, I was like, because we picked this topic. We picked this topic, I guess, because some changes I feel like everybody on the planet are going through, and it's a challenge in terms of whatever shifts we're going through. But I know, Stacey, you're feeling this topic in particular, which is is your idea. This is your topic, and it felt right for the collective. So today we're going to talk about surrender versus resistance, the spiritual art of letting go when in pain, and a transformation, dark night soul, whatever you want to call it, spiritual rebirth. I do feel like we're all kind of going through some kind of shift, and I feel like we're all being called to trust in whatever's coming next, and to let go. And the more that we try and control what's coming, the more pain that we're going to feel. So knowing when to surrender, when to resist, and knowing the difference is is part of the spiritual journey. But when you're feeling pain, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whenever you're feeling a pain or depression or whatever that may look like, it's harder, right? It's harder. It's like we're in a world where action's everything, right? Taking action, taking action, taking action. And of course we should do something, do some sort of activity. But I do feel this is a time to surrender. And then by saying that, I'm not saying don't take any action. What I'm saying is the action you should take is self-care, time in nature, time meditating, connecting, listening to your guides. This is the time. So I do feel it's time to surrender. But the question I'd ask right at the beginning is, if you had to check in with yourself and ask the question, how much are you surrendering and how much are you resisting? If you had to give a percentage to that, what is that percentage? I tell you, for me right now, and Stacey, now I'm going to ask you this question in a second. I think I'm 80% surrendering, 20% resisting. But I've had to really work at that. But what is resistance? Resistance is fear, wanting to control. You know, our ego, our humanness wants to understand what this change is, wants to control it. Everyone says, I love change. Yes, you love change. Most people love change. But most people only love change when they see it coming and they have a rough idea what it is. This change the planet's going through, we're shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, shifting on a pivot. The change the planet's going to go through the next 12, 18 months is something like we've never seen before. It's not something you're going to be able to control. And then what's the, when I say surrender, what's the soul's invitation to surrender? Surrender and trusting, it is a gateway to healing and transformation. But surrendering doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. And then when you're in pain, and we did an episode last week on anxiety and how anxiety could be part of the spiritual journey. And this episode feels very, very much connected. Because if you're going through pain, what if that is part of your shift? What if that is part of your initiation, your reset, your rebirth? And what if part of that pain is also your resistance? You know, I know it's hard to surrender. It's hard for the human to let go. But this is what we've been called to do right now, is to surrender. So Stace, this topic was inspired by you. I would love for you to also answer that question. If you had to give a percentage to surrender versus resistance, how much you're doing, and then where did the inspiration of this topic come from? Anything you want to share, over to you.
You know, it's so challenging for me to think of a percentage of the resistance versus the surrender, because I feel like I'm in this dance with the universe where in certain moments I can feel myself let go. They're really infrequent right now. And in other moments, I feel a tremendous amount of resistance. And that resistance has been overpowering things for some time now. For our listeners who don't know, I currently live in the States, and I applied several months ago for a visa to move to the UK to be with my fiance. And if there is an issue that we could possibly face in this process, we have faced it. I mean, every little step of the way, there has been some sort of an issue that has held the process up. And it's crazy because when I made this decision to apply for the visa, I felt like it was the right thing. I was being guided, and the whole process was just going to unfold in the way it was meant to. And then I got into the process and started having all of these issues that I didn't see coming. And here I am now at the point where I thought I was going to be packing and moving to the UK, where I'm still waiting. I'm still in this holding pattern of waiting for approval or even a denial at this point, waiting for an answer and feeling like the future of my life is in someone else's hands is really hard. Someone who doesn't know me, someone that doesn't know my history, doesn't know my relationship, is making the decision on whether or not I'm going to be accepted into the UK or not. And it has been the most uncomfortable season that I have ever been through. And I naturally find myself resisting every step of the way. Like, no, wait, this isn't supposed to happen this way. No, I have to try to control this. And it has been such a challenge for me to be in that space and to feel like I don't have any control over such a major decision in my life. And it has left me in a space of feeling anxious. I don't know if anybody can relate. Feeling a little bit depressed because I don't know what's going to happen next. And the challenge for me has been trying to remain in the present, trying to remain in the now and not resist what's happening. And I've surrendered before in my life. I've had some significant moments of surrender. And I question myself right now, Nims, as to why this time it's so hard to surrender. Why is it so hard in this season to let go and let things unfold? And I think it's because in my mind, I had an idea of the way things were supposed to go. And that hasn't happened at all, not even remotely. And so, what do we do when we're in a space where what we thought was going to happen doesn't happen? How do we surrender to this new idea of normal or to this new season that we didn't see coming? And I think that's the space I'm in right now, Nims, is like, I didn't see this coming and I don't know what to do with it. And so naturally, I'm finding myself being more resistant to this whole thing, this whole process. I find myself fighting against it instead of surrendering and being open to it. And of course, I want to turn to you and say, what do I do with this? Because when you're an outsider looking in, I think it's a lot easier to navigate than it is when you're on the inside and when you're dealing with all the emotion and the heartache and the frustration and the anxiety and the depression. And there's so much emotion when you're in a space where you feel like your life is not unfolding in the way that you expected it to. And I have found a few things that have helped me in this process. So if you're in a season of waiting right now and you're churning and you're trying to surrender, but you're facing challenges with surrendering and you want to control, I absolutely recommend that you have someone in your life that you can talk to. For me, it's I have a therapist that I love. I have friends that are loving me and supporting me through it. And that's offered me a great space to talk through some of the pain and some of the heartache and some of the lessons, right? And kind of gives me a refreshing perspective. And then the other thing that I've found a lot of power in is my writing, my journaling sessions, allowing myself a space to process the fear has been really, really powerful in this season. And I don't know what I would do without my daily habits because they're the thing that keeps me hanging on. Right now, those things that I do to stay connected, I feel are all I have in this season of unknown. And it's been a space for me that has been such a learning experience. And I know this situation is growing me, but I can't deny how challenging it is. And I've shed a lot of tears over it.
It's an interesting. And I know we talk about this all the time, right? But it's an interesting. It's kind of as mentors and as guides. It's really interesting how sometimes we need to go through things at a deeper level. So almost we can guide others. And is it a fair thing? Maybe not. But I do feel like all of us are being challenged in different ways right now. And I'm quoting a movie, but resistance is futile, right? It's that the planet is shifting, whether we like it or not. We're going through a shift, whether we like it or not. And Stace, when I look at your journey and kind of how many times you've had to surrender, the difference with this surrender is, ironically, it feels like a choice. A choice to move to the UK. But I sometimes wonder when we talk of how much of a choice it really was, right? Your boyfriend lives in the UK and you've been called, and for me, it's every time you've been to the UK, you felt like a deep connection to the land. So, is it more than that? Only time will tell. But it's that, I love the phrase, God's delays are not God's denials, and whether you call our source, guides, God, whatever words you want to use, but I do feel like all of us are kind of in a holding pattern, and whatever delays we're facing, it's not like your example, you received a no, right? So, and that you're spiritually, you've been shifting for the last few years, and it's easy for us to sit here and say, yeah, we know that this is part of our soul journey, where our soul's expanding, we're learning, but the waiting is frustrating. Patience is a virtue that we're all working on, I'm sure, and again, it's easy for me to say you'll learn so much from this journey. All of us will learn so much more from this journey than we really realize. It's part of our training. And you gave some great examples on how to deal with it, right? Journaling, time. Crying is such a spiritual activity, and sure, I would add having fun, laughing. We talked just before we started about what you might be doing later, and I was encouraging you to have fun, and going out and doing something you don't normally do is also important. Let's be honest, this period is uncomfortable. When we're in pain, and it doesn't have to be physical pain, when we're in that pain of the unknown, it is uncomfortable. But it's just, I don't look at the planetary activity that much, but more and more recently I've been looking at it, and there are some clues in that stuff, right? There's so many planets still in retrograde. We're recording this on the 19th, Euro Virgo. We're just about to go into Virgo season. And I never really looked into horoscopes that much, but there does seem to be some clues in there right now. And so it's no surprise you being a Virgo sun that you're going through a lot of shifts, but you are entering into a period of which is meant to be very expensive. I don't know what that means for you, and maybe that means you get some answers. But this is a period where we're all going through a shift. And I joked about it, but resistance is futile because the planet is going through a shift. Your soul chose to be here during this shifting time. Whatever you're here to do, you're needed, you're wanted. But it is going to require a shift and a letting go of all your programming, letting go of your expectations. If you listen to what Stacey was saying, a lot of her pain comes from the expectations she had. expectations. Well, the expectations were set. I mean, she started this process of applying for visa at the beginning of May, and she was told it's going to take 12 weeks. Reasonable to accept. That's okay. But it's been much longer than 12 weeks. And, so it's an interesting time where we are being tested, we are being trained, and the discomfort is serving us. And, if I think about the time I resisted, I mean, I spent many years in the corporate world. I enjoyed my time in the corporate world, but then near the end, it was draining me. It was really, really draining me. Being in these meetings, being surrounded by people that actually, it was a good company. It wasn't like, and some of these were my friends, but just having these conversations which weren't resonating slowly killed me inside. And yeah, I knew I was going to leave, but I was waiting for a package. I was waiting to be, I was like, well, hold on a second. If I'm going to leave, all of a sudden I'm not going to be earning, right? I'm going to be, and it was a surrender. It came to a point where I just couldn't stay. And I told my manager I was leaving. And she's like, she'd only known me for 18 months. I'd been at the company 17 years. And she said, when I met you 18 months ago, I knew you were here for so much more. I'm so happy for you. And it was like, it was nice to get that confirmation. But I resisted it for a long time. When I surrendered, when I left, it did take a bit of time. There was a bit of a massive adjustment. I've been in the corporate world for, nearly 30 years. So this journey is really interesting. And, what happens when you resist? What are the symptoms of that, the hidden cost of resistance? And again, that's why I asked you the question at the beginning, what percentage are you resisting? Because sometimes resistance causes, because you're going against what the universe wants, it is going to cause a feeling of disconnection. It is maybe going to make you feel exhausted. It is going to make you feel like you're staying stuck. And a sign of you resisting is look at the people around you. Are they supportive? Or are they draining you? Do they let you be you? Stacey talked about the importance of her friends and allowing her to grow in that space. What's your circle looking like? And the power of surrender it's really interesting. It's like when we say surrender, we're not telling you not to do anything. Stacey talked about the things that are helping her, the writing, the journaling. I'd include physical activity and exercise but the power of surrender gives you space. I was just talking to a client before we started recording about being busy. And she's busier than she ever has been. I was like, well, are you manifesting busyness? Are you allowing time for you? And it's interesting, when we say those things, I'm so busy that I haven't got time for me, then my question is, are you manifesting it? Because sometimes we manifest busyness because we don't want to do the internal work. We know there's stuff happening inside us. And the thing is, when you surrender, it is an intention. It is a release of your expectations. Because sometimes what we're holding on to is our expectations. I've had the same conversation with a few clients this week around, actually, you're not holding on to your old self, you're holding on to the version that you thought you were going to be. And let's ask you that question is, what were your expectations? What does your life look like now compared to what you expected? Are you holding on to that version? And I'll tell you, for me, when I started in the corporate world, I imagined my life was going to be getting married, having 2.4 kids, and, having this corporate career and, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not been my life. I have a loving family, 4 brothers, 4 sisters, 10 nephews, 3 nieces, but I don't have any kids. I'm not married. But I know my soul expanded and had to expand and learn through this journey. And the decisions I made were the ones that I was destined to make. Do I sometimes wonder, well, why didn't I pick whatever normal life would look like with a wife and kids? Yes, I do. But do I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be? Yes, I do. But it doesn't mean you don't question your life. So, Stacey, I'd love for you to talk a bit more about the awareness that this journey has brought you on in terms of why you're here, and any insight you have on why you kind of soul picked. Because I know that you've had, ever since I've known you in is it 5 years? You have been through so many rebirths. We all have, to be fair, but yours have been pretty severe. But this is the first time I feel like the rebirth was a semi-choice, i.e. you chose to move to the UK. So just any insights, anything that you feel your guys want to share as to why this period is so painful and so expansive. Anything you want to share? I'm going to hand over to you.
Gosh, that's such a loaded question. I have felt drawn to the UK from the very first time I set foot there with you. I felt a deep connection, and removing myself from the environment where I live right now and being in a new environment. I spent, some significant time with you in the UK. I've also spent a significant amount of time with my fiance in the UK, and my lifestyle is so much healthier in that space. Now, is that because of all the experiences that I've had here and the memories that are here and the pain? I've been through a lot in the town that I live in. There's a lot of memories. A lot of kind of like the past haunting me, it feels like, in certain ways. Everywhere I turn, there's memories of things, of raising my kids, the challenges that I faced with my son, which were significant, the end of my marriage. There's just a lot here that I absolutely have faced and have processed, but the memories are still in my face all the time. And I've found that when I go to the UK, I feel like I can breathe in all the way. I feel like I am a really healthy version of myself. And I've tried really hard to create that healthy life here. And it's been really challenging. And I think, again, it's because everywhere I turn, the past is in front of me. It's a memory of these things that I've been through in this space. And I think sometimes there can be a need to change our environment and to refresh our environment in order to be the healthiest version of ourselves, especially when we face trauma. And I've faced a lot of trauma in this area. I have been struggling to surrender when I think about it right now, because I don't know what I'm surrendering to. In the past, when I've surrendered, I have literally put my hands out and given up whatever my idea is of what I thought my life was going to look like for whatever my higher power has in store for me. And it's a powerful practice and has served me really well. And as I sit here talking about it, I don't know why I haven't done that in this season, why I haven't let go and said, okay, it's up to you. Whatever you think is for my highest good, that's where we're going to go. And it sounds like such a simple process, But I think that it takes a breakdown of our expectations and our ideas and what we think is supposed to be. It takes a breakdown of those things before we surrender and we say, okay, it's not about what I want anymore. It's about what you want for me and where I'm needed. And I guess part of me is scared that the answer might be that I need to stay here. And the idea of that is terrifying, Nims. I mean, I've given up my condo. I've sold most of my belongings. I've stripped down my life to the bare minimum in anticipation of moving to another country. And so the idea of that not being my future leaves me wondering what is my future, and wanting to control it. And I think that's where the fear comes from of trying to surrender and let go is, what if the answer is different than what I thought it was? And I'm sure people can resonate with this, right? We get an idea in our head of the way we think that our life is supposed to go. And then there's a plot twist and it doesn't turn out that way. And then there's got to be this acceptance that what we thought was going to be isn't what is. And that can be a really hard place to be. And for me, I spent 3 months this winter in the UK with Barney, my fiance, and just enjoying life there and being in this really healthy space. And I came back here to what feels like old stagnant energy. And I'm not sure what to do with that. It is a beautiful thing to be here with my kids and have this time with them. And so for that, I'm truly grateful because it's given me extra time with people here that I wouldn't have anticipated, both friends and family. I guess I'm just not sure of what the future looks like. And I know what I want. I know I want to be in a loving partnership. And I know that I want to continue to build my brand and my business. And I know that I want to do these things. I just don't know where I'm going to be doing them. And that space right now of the unknown and kind of this juggling between resistance and surrender is just a super challenging place to be, because if I surrender, am I giving up the UK? Because part of me wonders what will happen if I surrender. And I'm wondering if anybody else can relate to that. Like, do you feel fear in the idea of surrendering, my friends? I'm just curious if that's something that you feel in this space, that it's easier to resist and kind of cling to what you thought was going to be because you're afraid that the answer might not be what you expected. And I absolutely feel like that's the space I'm in, Nims.
I mean, there's so much that you bring up when you share your example, your story. It's that there's so many words we use in the spiritual realm, and it's kind of difficult in the human realm sometimes, right? It's that I truly believe that the home that we seek and the love that we seek and the balance is actually inside us, not outside us. And I love my home. If you haven't heard me talk about my mentor, my friend who's now my spiritual guide, she called it Merlin House of Ascension. And I do feel it's really a healing energy, and I feel blessed with it. But I also know that that my base, my strength, yes, I can lean on this place, but it has to come from inside. And it's but having said that, where you live, the energy you're surrounding does help you. So yes, it's kind of, yes, you got to look for your joy inside, but of course you've got to be in a space that allows you to be. And so I feel your energy being different when you're in the UK. So I get what you mean. But it's also, it is the unknown. And if you surrender, what is your life going to look like? You have all these expectations of what life with Barney is going to be like. And again, we're using you as an example, but I'm sure everybody can relate in facets to their own life, right? What were your expectations of what your life was going to look like? Do you still have those expectations? If you let go of those expectations, then what will your life look like? What does surrender? All of those are really valid questions. And, I do love the phrase, it's great when my plans come true, but it's even when they don't, because it means God's source guides their plans come true, and maybe their plans are bigger than I could even dream of. Again, easy words to say, and I do believe them, by the way, but when you realize, coming to the UK feels like the right thing to do, when you've kind of released all facets of you and you're still waiting on a decision, that delay, I could totally relate to it being painful. And by the way, just as a teaser, we are going to do a process near the end on understanding and maybe softening the resistance that you're feeling. So we'll do that near the end. But Stacey, thank you for sharing so vulnerably, because I'm sure, maybe not in the same extreme of moving countries, but I'm sure people can relate in terms of whatever's happening in their life. Where are you resisting? What are you holding on to? Is it personal relationships? Is there someone in your life where you know that your soul contract's complete? Maybe it's a partner, and maybe you know that you've got to do something different. Is it what you do as a career? Is it where you live? In Stacey's example, understanding where you're resisting or where you're holding on, that awareness really helps. Like I said, if you are, this energy we had right now is exhausting. If you're feeling tired, stuck in a cycle, maybe you are resisting. This is why it's always good, and we always recommend to check in with your body, because your body gives you such a big signal. So again, check in. How much are you resisting? If you're feeling tired, how much of that is yours? Because also we carry other people's energy. But it is liberating, surrendering. And I'm sure, Stacey, when you made the decision to move to the UK, and it wasn't an easy decision. I know that the journey and the way what you went through to kind of come to that conclusion. And I guess in that moment there was a feeling of liberation. But again, you don't know. There's a knowingness in you that what if God has, or what if Source, guides, whatever you want to call it, has a totally different plan for you? And how is that going to feel? It's scary. And I love how this podcast sometimes it gives us that space to process and surrender. And thank you for doing it so publicly. But yeah, I'm sure people can relate. And there isn't a silver bullet. There isn't like apart from being present in whatever you're going through, apart from the self-care that we've already talked about, journaling, writing, time in nature, meditation, time with friends, times laughing, time crying, being present, doing things you don't normally do. All of that's important. You've got to meet the universe halfway, but as much as possible, trusting and letting go of the outcome, which for us humans is really hard to do. But that's what we're being called to do right now. And, connecting with your guides, and we'll do some of that in the process, but connecting with your guides, feeling the support. So many conversations I had recently about how lonely people are feeling through this phase. And I do feel like we're shifting to a phase of community where you won't feel so isolated. But in this feeling, when you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling alone, this really is a time to call on your guides, to feel the energies, feel the support. In practical ways you can surrender. Like I said, journeying, but maybe connecting to the Akashic Records, maybe booking a Akashic reading with us or with somebody else, asking for help, looking for communities that hold your space. Is there anyone in your world? Stacey was talking about friends. Who in your world allows you to be that sounding board? Maybe just talking to loved ones that have left this realm, connecting with that. I feel like we're getting a lot more support from the other realms than we ever had before. So are you open to support from the other realms? Stacey, I'm going to step into the process, but before we do that, I just wanted you to share how supported are you feeling? You mentioned your friends in this realm, but how supported do you feel from your guides? Kind of from the other realms with working with the records. What does that journey feel like to you?
I feel like that's what keeps me hanging on. I feel like my connection with my soul family, with my higher power, is literally my lifeline right now. If I didn't have my spirituality and I didn't have that connection, I truly don't know how I would be getting through this. I feel like my faith is carrying me, and those resources that I have, my soul family, my angels, my guides, my higher power, my connection with them has been 100% the thing that keeps me hanging on. And if you're listening to this podcast and you've been wrestling with your spirituality and how to gain a closer connection, I want you to know I feel that it is 100% worth it to pursue that process and to understand more about that connection that you have and those resources, because there are times where my friends haven't been able to be there for me, or they can't meet the needs that I have because it's so great. And in those times, that's when I really lean into my soul family and my higher power and keeping that connection as strong as I can. Because for me, that is everything, right? When I can feel connected in that way and I feel supported, it makes me feel less alone. And this has been a very isolating, lonely time that without that connection, I would be in a much darker space. So for that, I'm truly grateful. I know that that is a huge part of what is carrying me through right now, Nims. And without it, I don't know what I would do.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And beautiful segue to kind of jump into a process. And ideally, this process is closed eye. So if you're driving or in a position where you can't close your eyes, you can still listen through the questions. Obviously, if you're driving, I ask you to concentrate on the road. You can always come back to this. But even if you walk in nature, if you're somewhere that you can be present, you can still feel the energy of the questions. It's a reminder that surrender isn't giving up; it's giving over to your soul's wisdom. So my intention with this is to really help and guide you to connect to your soul's wisdom. So if you're in a position to, please close your eyes and just be present to your breath. Be present to what you're feeling. Connect to your heart. Connect to your soul. Imagine yourself standing on grass, barefoot. Feel your connection to Gaia. Imagine your feet being connected and roots coming from your feet into the ground. Feeling your connection to Gaia. Feeling how protected you are. Feeling how loved you are. Above, feel your connection to Source. Feel the love that's inside you and around you. And from this space, if you're in a position to place your hand on your heart, and then notice where in your body you're feeling tension, tightness, or resistance. Where is it showing up for you? And then ask yourself, what am I holding on to that is causing me pain? I repeat, what am I holding on to that's causing me pain? Breathe gently into that space, as if it's softening with your breath. Wherever you're holding on to that pain, Just feel it softening. Then imagine placing that resistance into a golden bowl that's being held safely by your guides and your soul. Ask your soul, what would it feel like if I surrendered this, even just for a moment? Ask again, what would it feel like if I surrendered this, even just for a moment? In this space, and allowing an image, a word, or a feeling to arise. Trust whatever comes up. Take another deep breath and silently affirm, I choose to release what I cannot control. I trust my soul to guide me. I repeat, I choose to release what I cannot control. I trust my soul to guide me. Just sit there for a few more breaths, feeling the relief, the spaciousness, or simply the stillness that surrender brings. Feel the peace inside you and around you. Feel your soul, your guides around you. Feel how much you've been held. Then gently come back into your body, taking a really deep breath, and open your eyes. And notice how you feel inside. Are you feeling lighter? If so, where? Your body is such a guide to what's happening in your world. This is your opportunity to listen. Just allow yourself to integrate. Allow yourself to integrate whatever came through. Welcome back. Taking another deep breath in. Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you. How was that for you? How do you feel?
Powerful process, and something that I hope really helps our listeners. Just a beautiful way to let go and surrender and be in the proper space. And I absolutely think, friends, that the more time that we take to be still and to really focus on the present moment, the more we can relieve that pain in the waiting and that uncertainty and that resistance. And the more that we focus on the moment and being present in that moment, the more we can recognize that in this moment, we all are okay. And when we focus on the past or the present, that's when the anxiety and the depression can really start to take hold. So I encourage you to listen to this process and allow yourself that space to reset and be introspective. I absolutely feel that right now, just having done this episode, I feel calmer and more present in this moment. And I feel more willing and open to the process of surrender.
Yeah, it's an interesting space how this podcast recording is sharing whatever we channel. It's a co-creation. It's healing for us too, right? So thank you to everyone that's listening and allowing us to guide you. It's a reminder that asking for help, asking for support isn't a weakness. Surrendering is not a weakness. It's the highest form of trust. When we release that resistance, we create space for our soul to lead, for healing to unfold, and for life to guide us back to love. Really, there's a conflict now between our human and our spirit and our soul. Our human wants to control everything, has expectations, has put things in a box. The more that we can surrender and allow our spirit and our soul to guide, this is really what we're being called to do. I right before we began, I picked a card for Stacey, and I feel it's really kind of good for the collective. And for those who are watching on YouTube, I'll share it on screen. but it says, live in this world as a dreamer, create a future paradise. I do feel like this is a period of dreaming. This is a period of truly embracing your soul's vision for who you are, letting go of your expectations. And, the words that we pick, and I guess sometimes we make it sound easy. We know it's not easy, but surrendering is so powerful right now. Surrendering, but meeting your guides halfway with the self-care that you do and trusting in the messages that come through. It really does feel like a period where that is really, really important. Stace, thank you for being so vulnerable as always. I love your vulnerability. It feels like a superpower I get. Sometimes it's, you wonder, why do you have to be so vulnerable? And, I'm sure we're all questioning, why do we need to go through some things? It's a reminder that our soul has picked this journey and we are going through an expansive period, a period like a soul, like the planet has never experienced. So know and understand this is a phase and you are being supported. I hope you felt our intention, our love in this episode. We're sending you the biggest hug. Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you for any final words you have.
My friends, the process of surrendering can be so challenging, but it is one that can bring so much peace. And I really encourage you, whether you're in a season of waiting, you're in a season of churning, you're feeling resistance to what's happening in your life, I encourage you to take some time to reflect, to be present, and to think about letting go and surrendering to a power greater than yourself. This has been another powerful episode, and I'm so grateful for our listeners and the opportunity that we have every single week to pour into you. And yes, it is hard being vulnerable, but if I can help one person from this space, then it makes it all worth it. We're so grateful to all of you, our listening audience. We're grateful for the messages that we receive from you on a regular basis, and we love hearing about your journey. So please reach out at any time. Both Nimesh and I are here to support you on your journey, whether it's mentorship or an Akashic record reading or a coaching session. We are absolutely all in helping support you on your healing journey. Thanks again for another powerful episode, Nimesh. It's so good to be with you.
Thank you, Stace. So powerful as always. Thank you for inspiring this title, this episode. And this is a challenging period. So we are sending you the biggest hug. And as Stace says, reach out, send us a DM, send us a book. A discovery call is free. To kind of find out more about what we do. Book an Akashic record reading. It's a powerful, powerful time. Asking for help and support. If not from us, then ask who your soul's ready to guide you, and look for those communities, look for that support, and definitely connect with your guides. Sending everyone so much love and light. Stay sending you the biggest hug, and we will be back very soon. Thank you. Bye for now.